Yeah.
Hi everyone who's watching this Hangout on Air from the AAM DivCom board. We just wanted to welcome you all here today, and thank you for turning up to meet with us about our interest as a board in talking about what's next for the AAM diversity and inclusion policy. So today we're going to be introducing ourselves as a board, and we're going to be taking your comments and questions. And because of the nature of the Hangouts on Air platform, we can only really take your questions through the Q&A function on the sidebar of the screen and through chat. So we'll really be soliciting comments and questions from you that we won't be answering today, but we just want to start that sharing of where everyone's at in relationship to how they feel the diversity and inclusion policy should move forward, and then kind of continue to address those through additional events that DivCom will do, and then also at the AAM annual meeting where everyone can have a chance to connect in person. So without further ado, I think we'll all go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Alethea Whitman, and I'm part of the Inclusium, and we are happy to be part of the DivCom board this year. And I have my background is in museology. I currently work at the Seattle Architecture Foundation, and yeah, of course, do work with the Inclusium. So I'll pass it along to whoever wants to introduce themselves next.
I can go ahead. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, my name is Tim Hecox. I'm a co-chair right now of DivCom, and I was previous membership chair. My colleague Virgil Tallied is not here today. I think he's in Japan on a honeymoon, so that's exciting. I'm
Wow.
and the person that you're not seeing on this video, but we're excited to continue the conversation around the diversity and inclusion policy and start conversations at the annual meeting. So this Google Hangout is kind of intended to be prompt discussions leading up to the annual meeting and the different events we'll have, and to just kind of get people engaged around this topic again. There was a really big deal about this policy that came out last year, and a lot of the annual meeting was based around that, the conversations and presentations. So we just want to keep that momentum going, and I think there's a lot of changes happening in the AAM office that have been with the new president stepping on board, but I think that that's all normal and great, and so we just want to keep things moving forward, and then hearing from AAM members on what their thoughts and feelings are around it and how it can help inform their work in their institutions around this topic. So I also want to acknowledge too that we obviously had some technical difficulties with starting the Google Hangout, and so this is kind of a practice run for us. We would like to continue hosting these in the future. So so yeah, bear with us, and we're excited to have everybody here and just kind of start the conversation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cecile Shellman, and I work for Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh. And those museums are Carnegie Museum of Art, Natural History, Carnegie Science Center, and the Andy Warhol Museum. And I am here with the DivCom committee as the program chair. I'm very excited to meet some of you at AAM and to learn about your thoughts and feelings about the DEI policy, the diversity and inclusion policy. My title at the Carnegie Museum is Diversity Catalyst, and I probably am the only diversity catalyst anyone has ever heard of. It's a title, but it's certainly not a new topic, and I know many of you at your museums deal with issues pertaining to diversity and inclusion and accessibility on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that museums are truly for everyone. And we know that everyone's museum is a little bit different, everyone's practice is different, and so we're generating ideas about how we can collaboratively solve some of these issues that come up and how we can make and strengthen, rather, our diversity and inclusion policy with AAM. So thanks for tuning in.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Rose Beckett-Kinsley, and I am also working with the Inclusium with Alethea, and I am a board member of DivCom as well. And I am also a PhD student at the University of Washington Information School, where I study inclusion in museums and museum-like systems and organizations. And thank you, everybody, for the questions that have been coming in. It's great to see what you're thinking. And like everybody said, I want just to reiterate that while we might not be able to answer all these questions right now as we would have hoped for, we will be taking them with us at AAM and using these questions as a catalyst for future discussions. And hopefully we'll keep doing this on a sporadic basis here on Hangout Air. And we will keep learning about how to best use this platform.
Okay, and with that, I thought we could go ahead and look at just a brief intro to the Diversity and Inclusion Policy Statement for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to look at it much yet. Of course, the folks who were instrumental in putting together the diversity and inclusion policy, I believe that they don't have audio today, so they are instead present and hanging out with us, but might be sharing their comments with us through our chat function, and will be sharing thoughts later. And those two people are William Harris and Antonisha Stavalos. So we're happy that they're with us today and hearing all of kind of this conversation moving forward. So, so for the Diversity and Inclusion Policy Statement, it starts out this way. It says, the American Alliance of Museums respects, values, and celebrates unique attributes, characteristics, and perspectives that make each person who they are. We believe that our strength lies in our diversity among the broad range of people and museums we represent. We consider diversity and inclusion a driver of institutional excellence and seek out diversity of participation, thought, and action. It is our aim, therefore, that our members, partners, key stakeholders reflect and embrace these core values. So that's kind of the introduction right there. And in the memo that went out that included the diversity and inclusion policy statement, they also included some calls to action, or like starting questions for moving the conversation forward. And we just kind of want to present those here to you all today. It starts out, the call to action here says, we are calling upon key stakeholder groups, members, and field-wide colleagues to consider the following. 1, how might you use the diversity and inclusion policy to inform your work? 2, how would you prioritize the work that needs to be done? 3, do you have models of policy statements, programs, business practices, partnerships, exhibits, etc., that demonstrate how your institution or group has addressed issues of diversity and inclusion in your museum? And 4, how would you define the categories of inclusive practices in museums? So those are some big questions, and they definitely sort of are about thinking about how this policy might impact our ideas about diversity and inclusion in the field, and then how a policy might drive some of these conversations forward. So I think that those are great things to have in mind, but we're also interested in hearing the thoughts and comments, questions that you have about this policy. And some sharing has started to happen through social media as we've talked about this Hangout and the work DivCom would like to do in continuing the conversation. We had some participation that way. We want to invite all of you right now, if you have questions that come to your mind. This is a great opportunity to kind of shoot those out there to us. We'll maybe be, I think we'll be able to kind of compile any question that's submitted or any comments that's submitted and make those visible at a later date to anyone who participated here. And then if you check back with DivCom or the Inclusium, we'll try to be transparent about all the kinds of thoughts that people are starting to develop about the policy and its future. So let's see here, and I know there's going to be some events at AAM as well that are going to be moments to continue the conversation. I know other folks will do some introductions about that, but I wanted to open it up to the DivCom board. In terms of the policy and carrying the conversation forward and collecting feedback from other members of DivCom and then also folks who are just interested in this work in general, do you have anything to add about how the goals of DivCom in leading the discussion of these issues forward?
Well,
I can give a little context. So a lot of people have asked the question of, did DivCom participate in developing the diversity and policy? And it is a little, it would be a good assumption, but really the AAM board and some staff members took upon themselves to push that initiative forward. And so we as like the diversity committee, we feel like, after this policy came forward, we want to take it on as this thing, right, to push forward and really help advance the field and give people tools around this kind of work. And so we see it as a huge benefit that AAM created this policy, and it can kind of be this thing to leverage that we can base our work off of. It kind of gives us this thing to move forward. So that's kind of where I am with it, and as DivCom. And so we want to try to create opportunities that could be like tools for sharing with membership. So we've talked about doing a series of these hangouts, a newsletter perhaps, and then of course a lot happens at the annual meeting, and that's really where most of our work has happened in the past and probably will continue in the future. So there are a series of events happening at the annual meeting. There's the DivCom breakfast on Tuesday morning. There's a Creative Coalitions event, which the title I think has been a little misleading, but it is a group of professional networks hosting a welcoming reception before the opening party on I think that's on Sunday. And then we have a tour of the MLK Museum. I forget the full name of it. I apologize. And that event is actually the last hour or so. We're going to continue this conversation around the policy and how we as DivCom can help push that forward. So that's just a little framing of our involvement with this policy statement. And yeah, we just want to hear from members on like if they find this useful. And something that I found really, this question that I've been continuing to kind of grapple with in my mind is like, is this policy, the way it's structured, could AAM like turn this into like a template of sorts, or for maybe even potentially, and this is hasn't been really talked about, but as a part of their accreditation system for museums, or just as a tool for other museums to develop a policy of their own, and would that be helpful, and if so, how could we help make that available to the field? So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Cecile, did you have some comments?
I did, and Tim may have mentioned this. I wasn't sure if I missed it, but there is also a Marketplace of Ideas event on the 27th, at which we'll have several notable leaders in the field of whether it's African American studies, or we have someone who's an expert on immigrants in museums, and you can actually just join in, just sit in with us and listen in small groups and participate as they give their thoughts and theories and suggestions for how we can become more inclusive in museums. And also Chris Taylor from the Minnesota Historical Society, he will talk about his diversity department. They have they're they have plans for developing a platform and an actual department in his institution. So I like what Tim said about perhaps making this AAM policy into some kind of template, because many museums across the country are starting to develop these actionable statements and mission and plans to determine what they're going to do with diversity and inclusion going forward.
And I will just add to that as the DivCom group, professional network, I think we see our position as being a bridge between the AAM institution itself, but then also what's happening on the ground. And so as being on this position, we are very much interested in looking at those two aspects and how can we support AAM in further developing this vision, but also how we can help translate that for those of us working in museums and actually want to make progress on this, not just with words, but in concrete actions that lead to change in how we maybe do practice or conceive of what museums are and can be.
And I know that many of you tuning in probably are already involved in DivCom. Maybe you're on the DivCom mailing list, or you just follow DivCom on Twitter. If you kind of register with us as a member, we'll have your access to your email, and you'll receive regular updates from DivCom if you aren't already. So I would encourage you, if you want to stay connected to the conversation and just kind of be watching as we start to work on looking at the policy and the role that it can play in the field. Just stay connected with us through registering for the DivCom membership, and we'll make sure that you're in the loop about everything coming up. Because I know that some of our folks that had RSVP'd to watch, some are involved in DivCom, have been involved in DivCom in the past, and some haven't, but I know all of you are very interested in the future of diversity and inclusion as an overarching frame for thinking about the work that museums do and what they can do better, what the future of museums in general should be. So I just wanted to put that invitation out there that we would like you to all be involved in this process very, very closely. And sometimes there's so many things going on at AAM as well that it can be easy for people to miss some very exciting sessions or speakers that some people know about and some don't. And if you're going to a session that's beyond the DivCom sessions, but one that you think anyone involved in DivCom or interested in these ideas and issues should be aware about, we encourage you to submit them in the Q&A box to the side of the screen through that function. You can also submit them through comments as well in the chat function, and you can also go ahead and post them to our event page as well. I think you can post in to the page itself. So we'd love to have that information start to be exchanged amongst people who are looking out for that. So we just kind of wanted to open that up for everyone to share if you think there's a good thing people should have their eyes open on. And let's see here. Do any of you have any closing comments or any other matters that we should bring up here on the Hangout today?
Well, I guess I'd like to ask the participants a question. I mean, I don't know if we can have a little conversation with just people responding and typing. How many other people on on this webinar right now have some kind of policy or statement, and what do they call it for their museums? And I guess to add to that, would seeing the AAM policy, is that helpful to see an example of how to do this type of thing?
And I think Rose, you might be the one that has access to seeing if any comments or questions are coming in. I don't know that we have access to that.
Yeah, I see the Q&A, but I think we all have access to the chat function. So maybe in chat, I think will be, if people answer to these questions through the chat function, on the side, it's the sort of the bubble icon. That would allow for more sort of dynamic interaction, I think, because I think I'm the only one who can see the Q&A, and it's more of I'm then responsible for answering those. So so maybe if you're interested in answering Tim's question about if you have a diversity and inclusion policy statement in your museum or something like that, first, do you have something like that? And if so, what do you call it? And then if you think this AAM's policy statement is helpful, how or how not, you can answer that in the chat.
And I want to add that I have been getting a few questions just by email. My email address left for questions and comments. Chris Taylor mentioned that he had just joined a few minutes ago. So
great.
And I don't know if I don't want to put Chris on the spot, but if he had questions. He has a great model for diversity and inclusion statement or policy.
And we, while you're hearing back from him, I know that we heard back some great commentary and questions from Erin Bailey, who's also in Seattle, working at the Henry Art Gallery, and also who works on the Querying the Museum project. And via Twitter, we were hearing from her that she had some questions about just how we understand those terms, diversity and inclusion. There was some discussion, I believe, through the interview that Rose was doing with Antonisha about, should we understand the diversity and inclusion policy within our museums as in terms of kind of a business plan, or within a business framework or necessity, or should we think about it more in terms of just kind of the framework where we are using it expressly because we have a history of thinking maybe too much to the business-oriented model, where often who we're not serving is lower income people who there's many barriers to participation, and they might not be addressed directly by focusing in on a business focused model. So some questions about what ways do our museums benefit from using a diversity inclusion model, and what ways do our audiences and our desired community participants benefit from a diversity and inclusion policy? So how can we think about it in terms of sort of a lens of inclusion through just the fact that we need to be more public institutions and inclusive and just institutions generally. Where does the business part of that framework fit in? So I might not, I apologize if I'm not capturing exactly what you were saying, Erin, because I think you're watching. But you can correct me through chat or rephrasing the question as you'd like to say it. as well. But I think that's a very interesting, because it kind of goes back to one of the calls to action, which says, you know, how would you define categories of inclusive practices in museums? And there are many, many different categories of inclusive practices in museums, many ways we define diversity in our institutions and how those words are defined in, you know, I think Rose can speak to this, in different spaces and contexts in business worlds and nonprofits, you know, in different fields and disciplines academically too. So I thought I would just say that's something that's come up already, that's on people's minds.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. And I am not sure that everybody has access to the chat function after all. I'm seeing in the Q&A section that there might be some problems with that. So this is great first run for us to see sort of what's working and what's not working. What is, and if, yeah, we're going to follow up with some of you to better understand what you were seeing from your end. But Chris Taylor did comment. He said that at his institution, Minnesota Historical Society, they developed a mission, vision, a value statement that is focused on creating an internal and external strategy for diversity and inclusion work. And he says that this is very much like we tend to do for collection and exhibition strategies. And he feels very strongly that diversity and inclusion work is much the same thing. It's not something that's going to just happen like that by magic, but it's something that needs to be planned, strategized, and made more concrete. And leading to AAM next weekend, the Inclusium will be featuring a blog post almost every day, and 2 of those blog posts will be from Chris Taylor, who is a pioneer at the Minnesota Historical Society and really working really hard to see this Department of Inclusion and Community Engagement emerge and exist. And I think that's a great example for many of us who work in museums. And so, yeah, and then we'll keep having that discussion also at the conference itself.
Rose, do you want to put a link up or something on how people can access the blog? Did you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can hear you. I will send on the event page. I will add a link to the Inclusium page, and I think most of you probably already might be connected with us on Twitter or Facebook or something. But I'll make sure that everybody has access to that.
And then I'm going to put my email address up here in the chat box. I don't know if everybody can see it or not, but if anybody has any questions or suggestions for topics that we could bring up on future webinars or hangouts or whatever platform we may choose, we would love to hear ideas. And then also at the annual meeting, if you see any of us around and you want to get more involved with DivCom on a leadership level, we're totally open to getting more people on board, and that would increase our capacity to offer membership more things like webinars and newsletters and all sorts of things.
Also, this one reason we were hoping to use the Hangouts on Air function is because we then, you know, it's broadcast, but it's also recorded and available on our Inclusium YouTube channel. And I believe that I posted the link to that on the event page as well. And so I encourage you, if you know of people who weren't able to make it today at your institution, or just people that you know, pass that link around to this conversation, because we're, I think, using it mainly today as kind of a rallying cry to get more involved in DivCom and also to participate in moving the diversity and inclusion policy forward. So we would love if you shared that and kind of use this as a resource for all the different ways that you can start to be involved in that work, for sharing that with coworkers or other folks you think would be interested that missed this today. So do check out that Inclusium YouTube channel, and feel free to pass that around as much as you would like, because we know not everyone was able to make it today, even to watch, and you know, it's nice that we can kind of extend the life of this conversation, even if people weren't able to make it. So I encourage everyone to do that.
And just in closing, also I would add that thank you to all of those who've been participating in the Q&A. There are some really great questions, and then some answers to the questions that we've been asking. And since it's sort of hard to field this right now, I just want to let you know that I will be capturing all this, and we will have that on the blog. So if you don't mind, your name and your question will be there, and this could be a way for us to collect that and for you all to be able to see what has been said, what you all were saying during this this chat, this dialogue, and we can keep talking about that.
Thank you. Okay, great.
All right.
Well, I guess
Well,
we'll see people at the annual meeting, huh?
See you there.
yeah, see.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Okay.